Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. The big stories tonight. Caloocan police are on the hunt for 12 of 13 detainees who bolted a detention facility early Thursday morning. All escapees tested positive for COVID-19. A senior military official comes under fire as he allegedly red-tagged celebrities Liza Soberano and Catriona Gray. The Justice Department is not ruling out criminal liability as it reviews the Memorandum of Agreement between PhilHealth and the Philippine Red Cross. Pope Francis' supportive words for same-sex civil union could be seen as a landmark endorsement, but some members of the LGBTQ+ community have their doubts. And with elections less than 2 weeks away, a top U.S. intelligence official accuses Russia and Iran of obtaining voter information to interfere in the polls. We begin tonight with a prison break in Caloocan. 13 detainees have made their way out of the detention facility by drilling through its walls using stones and concrete nails. Marlene Alcaide with the big story.
Past 1 o'clock in the morning, a group of men can be seen darting across the streets of Caloocan. The police only realized later on that it was a prison break.
Mayroon pala silang nakuhang concrete nail. Concrete nail kasi ano yan warehouse dati yun . Yung concrete nail na yun yung pinang-unti-unti nilang pinambasag ng layers ng concrete wall.
The escapees are facing cases of illegal drugs, alarming scandal, theft, and unjust vexation, among others. Inside, yellow and orange shirts littered about the floor. Some of the detainees managed to change clothes before breaking free. Menor said the warehouse turned City Hall extension is being used as isolation facility for detainees who have flu-like symptoms.
31 sila doon sa facility na yon. Isolation facility kasi yun . Yung may mga nagte-test, nagpa-positive sa rapid test at saka yung mga may ubo, hinihiwalay namin dito sa mas maraming grupo.
2 of the escapees tested positive, but only in rapid tests. Their swab test results turned out negative. Police Chief Debode Sinas and Caloocan Mayor Oscar Malapitan made rounds in the area. Sinas noted that the detainees have easily escaped because they are skinny.
Nagpa-direct na ako sa COP na yung ibang jail facilities niya dito sa Caloocan ay inspectionin din. Diba? Titingnan kung ano yung mahihina na bagay. Nag-issue na po kong directive na lahat na chief of police ay inspectionin nila ang lock-up cells nila. No? Inspectionin kung may mga butas na ba doon.
He had already ordered a manhunt for these escapees. 3 have already been recaptured. Malapitan made an appeal to those who are still at large.
Sumuko na kayo dahil hindi naman kayo titigilan ng ating Caloocan Police at ng ating National Police. Hahanapin kayo at mahuhuli kayo. Lalo nyo lang pinataas ang antas ng inyong kaso. So, sumurrender na kayo.
The police officers who were guarding the facility meanwhile have already been fired. They are facing criminal and administrative complaints. For now, the facility has been emptied as it undergoes rehabilitation and disinfection. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide. We are One News.
A military official is under fire for warning celebrities Liza Soberano and Catriona Gray against supporting a women's rights group. Gabriela Representative Arlene Brosa slammed Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr. for supposedly red-tagging Soberano. She said the actress only attended Gabriela's youth forum to speak up for victims of gender-based violence. Soberano's lawyer has also denounced Parlade's remarks, saying protecting women and children is her personal advocacy. The palace, meanwhile, downplayed Parlade's statements. It said the real issue is how communists might take advantage. Both Gray and Soberano have been vocal about socio-political issues online. Parlade earlier said the two could suffer the same fate as killed activists.
What we are trying to explain to Liza, be careful with these people, especially officials of Gabriela, kasi ang galing nilang mag-exploit.
Severe tropical storm Pepito has left the Philippine area of responsibility. It left earlier this morning after bringing heavy rain over parts of Luzon. PAGASA said Pepito left the Philippine area of responsibility at 7:30 a.m. It's expected to make landfall over the central portion of Vietnam by Sunday. While no casualties or missing persons were reported, the National the Risk Reduction and Management Council said the typhoon affected at least 25,000 people, with 8,000 persons forced to stay in evacuation centers. The Agriculture Department also reported some 67 million pesos in farm losses over in Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon. More than 7,000 hectares of rice fields were destroyed. Corn and other high-value crops were also damaged. PAGASA is now keeping its eyes on two other possible disturbances: a tropical depression at the extreme northern Luzon and a low-pressure area east of Mindanao, which could enter PAR tomorrow and develop into a tropical depression over the weekend. Meanwhile, the Education Department reminded the public that class suspension guidelines are still in place despite the shift to online learning. Speaking with Radyo 5, DepEd Undersecretary Tonisito Umali said class suspensions will still be based on PAGASA storm signals. He said localized suspensions will still apply.
Maski alam po natin na ang sitwasyon ngayon ay iba na, online learning, hindi na po physical na pumapasok sa paaralan, yung rules on automatic cancellation of classes will still apply.
The Department of Education is reminding parents and tutors to not encourage cheating in online classes and let them do their schoolwork on their own. Marian Enriquez tells us more in this report.
19-year-old nursing student Berna starts her day with her online class at 8 in the morning. During her break time, she works on the assignments of other students. Berna works as an online class assistant on the side. Her clients are mostly senior and junior high school students who need help in their homework. Commissioned works range from 5 pesos to 100 pesos depending on the difficulty.
Yung nag-push po talaga sa akin na gawin po tong service na to is nung may nalaman po kasi akong isang student na nag-suicide po dahil lang po hindi po naipasa yung module on time.
Berna says she does not spoon-feed the answers to her clients, but actually makes time to explain the topics.
Sinasabi nga po nila na parang ginagawa po namin tamad yung estudyante. Ang goal lang po talaga namin dito talaga is yung makatulong po talaga.
Berna has earned 500 pesos since she and her friends started the project last week.
Pandagdag po sa school allowance po, lalo na po medyo gipit din po kami lalo na po sa pandemic po na nangyayari ngayon.
Education Undersecretary Diosdado San Antonio says there's nothing wrong with tutoring. However, he expressed reservations on commissioned works.
Kung mag-tutorial, wala namang problema kasi suporta yan sa pagpapatuto sa mga bata. So ang sinasabi ko lang, dinidiscourage natin kung sila na yung mismong gagawa.
The DepEd official has also asked the parents to remind their children not to cheat in schoolwork.
Pagkakataon ito para maturuan ng pagiging matapat ang mga bata ay kung hindi nga nila isusumiti yung sarili nilang ginawa, parang tinuturuan ni rin natin ang mga bata na hindi maging matapat.
For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
We'll go for a quick break. When the big story returns, Filipinos overseas who wish to return to the country might have a harder time getting out of NAIA. Find out why. And starting today, Baguio is opening its doors to tourists from across Luzon. A look at how day one went after the break. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. With the Philippine Red Cross suspending coronavirus tests funded by embattled agency PhilHealth, several passengers at the NAIA are forced to consider other means of getting tested, prolonging the whole process of getting home. Gerard de la Peña has this report.
Arriving passengers at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport are now welcomed by a more tedious process for COVID-19 testing. Registration is manual and test results take 4 days. Previously, that only took a day or two. This is the aftermath of the Philippine Red Cross halting the conduct of swab tests on arriving passengers after PhilHealth failed to pay close to 1 billion pesos in dues. That's also why starting today, the number of arriving passengers has been capped at 2,500 daily, down from 4,000. Travelers are given 3 options. First, they test with the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, the results of which may be released after 4 to 5 days. Second is to pay 3,500 pesos to the Philippine Red Cross for tests, where results may be out after 2 days. And third, some may opt to pay as much as 7,000 pesos to a private testing group, where results can be released a day after. The Philippine Coast Guard, which oversees the COVID testing of arriving passengers, is in talks with 12 hospitals to enable the testing of as much as 4,000 passengers daily.
Nakakatakot baka lang magkaroon ng problema pag dumating na yung talagang weekend na maramihan na yung dumarating na OFW.
With this, individuals abroad who are planning to go back to the Philippines may find it hard to secure flights.
Either mabawasan ang flight or marireduce ang kanilang passenger capacity kasi limitado po ang kapasidad kada araw ng mga airlines.
OFWs are also expected to stay longer in their quarantine hotels before they could be reunited with their families.
Para din po kami yung mga naghihintay po dito, makauwi na din po sa aming mga mahal sa buhay. Sana malaman po kagad ng maaga kasi para hindi din po nag-aalala yung mga mahal namin sa buhay din po.
The Health Department meanwhile admitted that around 26% of government's daily testing capacity had been affected after the PRC suspended PhilHealth-funded COVID-19 tests.
We recognize that fact, no? Hindi po tayo magkakaila na talagang malaki po ang contribution ng Philippine Red Cross sa ating daily outputs or the outputs for our laboratories.
Malacanang, however, insists the issue with Red Cross and PhilHealth did not affect the country's testing capacity.
We have 114 RT-PCR laboratories and 35 licensed gene expert laboratories. Gone are the days po na we are only dependent on one testing facility. No? So we are still able, we have already done 4,187,385 at hindi naman po bumababa yung average testing natin.
The Justice Department said it is now reviewing the Memorandum of Agreement between the Philippine Red Cross and PhilHealth. The department said the review will focus on procurement issues. However, it is not ruling out a possible criminal liability. The DOJ said their opinion on the matter will be released within the week. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
A lawmaker has filed a resolution seeking to provide a 13.7 billion peso subsidy to distressed employers amid COVID-19 losses. Cagayan de Oro Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, directly addressing the Labor Department, said the amount will cover 13th month pay for micro, small, and medium enterprises. Labor Secretary Silvestre Delio, in an interview with Radio 5, stressed that the 13th month pay computation should still be prorated or based on an employee's attendance.
Halimbawa, may natenga tayong 6 months, di ba? Mababawas po yan. May advisory akong pinalabas. Alam naman ng mga empleyado yan, depending on yung reporting mo. Lahat basta empleyado na regardless of their status.
And these are the other big stories today. The Interior Department will meet with Facebook representatives next week to discuss the closure of fake pages linked to the police and the military. The social media giant previously took down several Philippine-based accounts citing coordinated inauthentic behavior. The DILG also expects Facebook to come up with ways to help the government combat false information online. The COMELEC says it might be forced to reuse and refurbish voting machines from the previous years for the 2022 presidential elections. The Budget Department slashed their allocation in half to 14.5 billion pesos from their initial 30 billion peso proposal. The poll body said the refurbished machines will not be as durable nor efficient as new ones. They also said that the reduced budget prevents them from preparing for the next presidential elections as early as 2021. Social Welfare Department says 13.9 million poor families have benefited from the second tranche of the Social Amelioration Program. In today's Laging Handa briefing, DSWD Undersecretary Glenn Paje said this is already 98% of the 14.3 million target beneficiaries. The department vowed to complete the second tranche distribution within the month. Baguio City is opening its borders even wider. Starting today, tourists from the entire Luzon will now be allowed to have their vacation in the City of Pines. Romel Lopez gives us the details live from Baguio City. Romel, what should tourists expect when they visit Baguio?
Yes, Robbie, unlike when they first opened or reopened its border to tourists from Region 1, this time around, Baguio City has eased its requirements for travelers across the whole island of Luzon. But the spike of the city's infections is causing somehow some panic and concern for some residents.
It's a breezy Thursday in the City of Pines. The temperature hit a low of 17 degrees Celsius. And now that cold Baguio air is open to travelers from across Luzon, tourists will still need to secure an online registration at the Baguio Visita website, where documents like negative swab test result within the past 72 hours will be required. But many travel requirements have been relaxed. Direct online booking of accommodation with an accredited hotel is now allowed. Staycationers will also no longer be required to hire accredited tour guides. Nadine, a travel and tours operator, is very much excited with this development.
It's a great opportunity po na lahat po ng mga turista ulit makikita po nila yung Baguio. Parang tataas po ulit yung business namin kasi mga turista po.
But some residents are skeptical. COVID-19 cases in the summer capital now total 1,752 with 21 deaths. 590 are active while 27 are new cases.
Wag muna sana. Ipagliban na sa December na kaya. Mas maganda pa dahil parang delikado po eh. Yun ang nasa isip namin.
But some opt to coexist with the virus rather than to go hungry during the joblessness.
Ay, yung fear, I think sa akin, more on kailangan nating mabuhay eh. Diba? Mas na ano yung takot na hindi kakain yung mga anak mo. Kesa yung, diba? Pero yung at least sa ano na to, yung precaution na lang.
Data from the UP Octa research team shows that Baguio City ranks second in the daily cases with an average of 39 infections per day. It also flagged the city's high 11.1 attack rate, which tracks the day-to-day increase of confirmed cases. The Baguio local government acknowledged the findings but assured that they are on top of the situation. The city remains to have the highest testing capacity and contact tracing ratio.
And we're doing our best to, institute various types of systems to manage the COVID-19, including the surges. We were able to contain it. We were able to control it. We have a very aggressive contact tracing team.
The city averaged 300 tests per day. To date, more than 50,000 residents have undergone swab tests, including these vendors who went through the test Thursday morning for the safety of the community and the visiting tourists.
Kasi nagtitinda kami. So mandatory yan sa lahat yata ng tindera.
Almost 3,000 tourists have already registered in the Baguio's Visita website. 500 will be coming from Metro Manila.
Robbie, the local government reminds those planning to visit Baguio City that staying with relatives or friends in the city is not allowed. Tourists are also only permitted to a maximum of 5 days stay in the city, after of which they have to undergo another confirmatory swab test. Robbie?
Maraming salamat, Romel Lopez reporting live from Baguio City. Let's pause for a quick break. When we return, Pope Francis in a statement backed some same-sex civil unions, but does this really mean full acceptance for the LGBTQ+ community? Find out. And a U.S. intelligence official is accusing Russia and Iran of meddling with the November 3 polls in the United States. The details next. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Several groups are lauding Pope Francis for voicing support for same-sex civil union, but some members of the LGBTQ+ community say the Pope's words actually leave much to be desired. Camille Samonte explains.
For the first time, Pope Francis has declared his support for same-sex civil unions. In a documentary titled Francesco, the Pope said homosexuals are children of God who should be allowed to have legally recognized civil unions. His statement is a radical shift from previous pontiffs. UP Babaylan, an LGBT support group, hailed this as a progress, but noted that this doesn't translate to a full acceptance of the country's LGBT+ community.
We also have to recognize that this is far different from same-sex marriage. And in that sense, tolerance lang to at hindi talaga full acceptance.
Gender and Development Advocates Filipinas believes that more has to be done since civil unions do not recognize the rights of transgenders, especially with a church that has a strict view on gender identity.
So usapin itong same-gender civil union na in-endorse ni Santo Papa, mas marami pa ang maiiwan, hindi lang yung mga taong transgender, di ba? Kasi nakikita natin kahit sa ibang konteksto, kahit mayroong batas ng civil union or civil partnership.
Some Filipinos are still divided on this matter.
Yung paniniwala na kinakasal, di ba, yung mga bakla, parang hindi maganda. Ang paniniwala ko talaga, yung nilalang ng Diyos, ang babae para sa nilalang sa lalaki.
Lahat naman po ng tao may karapatan, di ba? May karapatan silang kung ano po yung tahakin nilang landas, di ba? Tapos lahat ng tao may karapatan din naman magmahal.
For its part, the Catholic Bishop Conference of the Philippines said they will look into the context of the Pope's statement first before commenting. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
The country's testing of Japan's anti-flu drug Avigan slows due to a lack of participants. The health department admits that it is now a challenge to fulfill its target of 100 test participants in 4 Metro Manila hospitals as active cases have started to drop. Adding to the difficulty are the ongoing tests for other off-label drugs under the WHO Solidarity Trial. a patient cannot participate in 2 trials.
Ang kailangan lang po natin ay magkaroon ng re-strategizing. No? Nung nag-uusap-usap po kami nung Friday, there were experts also together with us at isa po sa lumabas ay baka sakaling pwedeng i-expand yung number ng mga ospital para lang makakala pa ng mas maraming pasyente.
Some of China's COVID vaccines, meanwhile, have already entered phase 3 trials. That's according to Philippine Ambassador to Beijing, Chito Santarumana. Santarumana said there are no reported adverse reactions during the trials in China. He says there are also trials in Indonesia, Brazil, and the United Arab Emirates where there are Filipino volunteers. While the Philippines is a priority recipient, he said there might be a logistics problem.
Distribution will be a challenge, even if we're in the priority list. One, because the Chinese companies we have been in contact with have said that we need, or the recipient countries should make sure that they have the capability for receiving the vaccine. Kailangan kasi yung tinatawag na cold chain storage.
In the PBA, 2 to 3 referees from Manila are about to enter the tournament bubble in Clark. That's after one of the referees is suspected to have tested positive for COVID-19. The new batch of referees will enter the league once they have completed health requirements. They will support the 7 referees left officiating the game. Blackwater Elite and Alaska Aces have likewise undergone their swab test this morning. Hotel facilities have been disinfected while players' media availability have been suspended. PBA Commissioner Willie Marcial hopes that the referee's case will turn out to be a false positive. Meanwhile, the TNT Tropang Giga extends their winning streak to 5 after defeating the Blackwater Elite 109-96. Tropang Giga's Roger Pogoy led his squad with 20 points, earning him his 3rd best player of the game title in the conference. Blackwater's Don Troliano carried the load for his team, finishing with 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Catch the PBA Bubble Games live on TV5 every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and on One Sports and PBA Rush Daily. Games are also seen live via Facebook and YouTube live stream, Radio 5, and Signal Play. U.S. intelligence agencies are claiming that Iran and Russia sought to influence the November 2020 presidential elections. U.S. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe said Wednesday that some voter registration information had been obtained separately by the 2 countries. He added that Iran has been sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage the image of U.S. President Donald Trump by calling for support for the re-electionist. Issues of Russia's supposed meddling in the 2016 U.S. elections have haunted Trump's presidency. Trump has since denied reports of collusion with Russia. And it was no ordinary drone day for a group of Peruvian archaeologists. They snapped a giant cat etching along the country's famous Nazca lines. The 120-foot-long cat drawing is believed to have been sitting on the hillside for more than 2,000 years. It is made up of a long body, a striped tail, and head with distinctive pointed ears. Peru's Culture Ministry said the ancient cat predates some better-known drawings in the area, including a hummingbird and a spider. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News, for more in-depth analysis. Visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.